After the decorative line is finished, we can punch stitching holes. Now, it's not easy to punch through this raised leather, so usually I don't punch all the way down. I'll fix it first, paste double-sided tape. The alignment should be accurate, especially for this raised leather situation. There's a height difference here, right? If we punch directly, the pattern may be pressed down. Therefore, the punch hole will go inwards. To avoid this, I will use the awl to pierce a few holes. You don't have to pierce it from beginning to end. We must ensure the punching hole on the pattern line up correctly. Avoid sliding down, otherwise, everything we did before is in vain. Pay attention to these 3 key points at the corner. Then pierce every 5 or 6, because my pricking iron has 10 prongs. Even if it is pierced every 5 or 6, it can be overlapped. When we pierce, if the pattern tilts, then let it go. Just keep your awl vertically piercing to the pattern. This is how we punch holes on raised leather. Just make a mark. This one uses 3 mm. This one uses 5 mm. And then we take a loaf. Just pierce 3 at the corner and the 2 in the middle. Then we'll fill it up with pricking iron for the rest. Here we can see 3 holes at the corner, and there's another one here every 5 or 6. Now we can fill the rest. When we punch, we can directly penetrate it, or punch barely to the surface. See, my board is marble, so I didn't get through. We'll use an awl to pass up later. We will show for common sewing problems later, so I will not penetrate through now. I will show how to use an awl to cooperate with pricking iron later. Let's fill the stitching holes. Now, the pricking iron must be vertically to the leather. Otherwise, it's no problem to see from the front, but on the back, will be upwards. What if you punch like this? It's not good looking either, so it has to be vertical. When we punch, the pricking iron should be placed in our side direction. Don't place it at an angle like this, or horizontally. Otherwise, it's hard to tell if it's vertical. After one punch, we overlap 3 of the holes and move forward. This ensures that our second punch are overlapped very naturally. Okay, I've finished the whole circle. See, I didn't punch through. On the back, I wrote a word. I'll sew with you later. A lot of times we don't sew well due to incorrect punch, such as punch crookedly or punch unevenly. If not punch vertically, the inside rail is very ugly. So punching is the foundation of sutures. Be sure to do the punch well. Okay, the next one I'm going to punch it through. Okay, place it on an old cutting board. Then penetrate through. This is the ideal, that is a belly through. Can see the prong, but it doesn't come out too much. Like this, we can penetrate it directly in this thickness. If you encounter a very thick leather, for example, if it is more than 4 mm thick, just try not to penetrate through pricking iron all at one time, but punch separately. This punch is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. If the leather is over 4 mm thickness, then the surface punch hole will be very thick, and the bottom hole is slim, so the seams on the front and back will not be ideal. So let's summarize it with 3 main points. First, it must be vertical, and overlap 2 to 3 holes when hit to next punch. The more overlap, the straighter the future holes. The third is penetrate, just barely through. This state is the best. Touch the back. If you could touch all the prong coming out slightly, that's great. Lastly, even the force. If punch deep at one time and very shallow at the other, the size of the hole varies. Then the stitches you sew will also be inconsistent. So if you find a problem after punching, it's hard to change. So you must be cautious. When punching, not in a hurry. Do slowly. When pulling the pricking iron, it is not pulled vertically like this. It swings from side to side, shake back and forth. Shake forward and back. Hey, it's out. Remember to overlap the hole precisely. Now we can see the benefit from ironing the decorative line, right? These 2 are finished. One is not punched through. One is punched through. This one without writing is punched through. Now, let's fit a vegetable turned leather to display some common problems when punching holes. Okay, let's talk about punching and stitching knowledge. Pricking iron or to say chisel tools are important tools in handmade items. We punch holes first, then connect it with needle and thread. No matter a man is an expert or a layman, he may be not familiar to materials or supportive materials or leather. He must be able to read stitches. understands your ledge. So whether it's a good seam work directly determines the value of our work. Well, many years ago, I took a video about how to sew. It's been so long, but actually not big a grading change on seam work. I used to use this kind of leather to teach sewing. Since this hole is really small, so many firms are still confused after watching it. It's that simple. Yes, you can say that. One hole, two needles. But a lot of newbies, easy to get confused. When is double wave? When is a single wave? What's single or double punch stitching? How to sew? So this time, let's display in more details. But before the demo, there are a few basic concepts to clarify. Firstly, the pricking iron has different space, or to say distance. The space is what we usually call 3.0, 2.7 or 3.38 or 3.85 or 4.0 or so on. There's a lot of space. Usually, the most I personally use is 3.0. It is met with 0.5mm thread. This is not absolutely correct. It's not the only criteria. There is no such thing. This is personal aesthetic preferences for years of experience. You can also use 0.4 to match 3.3H. Can also be matched with 3.85. That's okay. Okay, this is the first concept of pricking iron space. And the second concept, thread diameter. Some thread are thick and some are thin. Some 0.4 mm, some 0.45, some 0.5. The effect of different thicknesses is different. So when matching with pricking iron, they will have many combinations. What exactly do you like? Can be based on your aesthetics. If you don't want to test, you can refer to my suggestion. 0.443 and then 0.45 for 3.38, 0.5 to 3.85, 0.5 to 3.85. Follow this data is enough. When we make straps or make some small objects, 2.7mm may be used. There is also the 0.45 mm. How did this strange data come from? Why these 0.7, 0.38, 0.85 are used for pricking iron space? Because French people was the first to use this tool. An inch in France is 2.7 centimeters. Then divide this 2.7 evenly into 10 prongs. So it's 2.7mm apart. That is two sides. They correspond to the 10th pricking iron. And what if it corresponds to the 9th pricking iron? Then the corresponding space is 3.0. If it corresponds to 8th pricking iron, that corresponds to 3.38. Now we are using international units. Millimeter, meter, decimeter, centimeter. These are international units. So this niche unit is gradually being unified. Well, like earlier Blanchard iron puncher, they only talks the number of pricking iron. They doesn't talk about space. So everyone has to unify. This is basic common sense in our industry. Okay, after understanding pricking iron tool and space, next is the punch angle. The angle is not necessarily 45 degrees, just approximately 45 degrees. This slope will eventually affect our sutures. This is the thread. The pricking iron slope will affect the slope of the line. Some seams will look like miller grains after sewing. That's good looking. Some seams have a feeling of adhesion after sewing. This is related to the width of the pricking iron and the slope. There is no right or wrong. Well, just an aesthetic issue. When we punch holes. Wait, I make a hollow pattern as a prop for showing sewing. Cause it's better to display the thread accurately when we punch holes. It's like using an awl to stretch the leather apart. Punch and stretch the hole apart, rather than hollow the leather. The punching tool I use to hollow out the leather like this prop. There is no material in the middle to block it. In fact, when we punch, it's a line that gets cut. Cut a line. Some pricking irons are thicker, like a hexagonal shape, and some present such an olive-shaped shape, including diamond-shaped tip pricking iron. A novice pricking iron will cut the leather like a line. There are a lot of names to name the pricking iron. It's messy. There's no uniform rule. There is no association. There is no standard. People are used to name the pricking iron by the shape. Diamond-shaped pricking iron are normally used in vegetable tan leather. Then most of the novice pricking iron are like this. with a small tip on both sides. Then olive-shaped pricking iron, and the most used now is the hexagonal-shaped pricking iron. Nothing more than, these types of pricking irons have more empty space, so it's easier to sew, and the effect after sewing is relatively ideal. The diamond-shaped pricking iron is relatively rough in sewing effects, so most of them are used in Japanese-style leather goods. This newbie tool and diamond-shaped tool we will not talk now. Now I only keep one set of pricking iron. It's hexagonal-shaped. Like this, that is what the hexagonal shape looks like after being enlarged. This is the olive shape. They both are essentially the same thing, but they have a little influence on the seam. But it's not big, so if you're particularly torn by this, you can buy more and try it. If you're not torn about it, you can use this hexagonal shaped tool directly. Or, during the UN practices punching holes, I will display the common programs when punching holes, because if I am just talking, maybe not easy for some novice friends to understand. I pasted the vegetable tan leather together. It's about 4 millimeters, or 5 mm thickness. We put decorative lines on both sides, so it has a reference line. We'll know what it looks like to punch holes crookedly. Punch through this thickness. Maybe many friends will punch through directly. Just punch it through such a thickness. We can easily understand. The bottom hole will be small, but the surface hole will be very large. From here, the entire hexagonal shape can be seen clearly, but the hole on the back are tiny. Then the stitches on front and back will be different. What should I do in this situation? Generally speaking, I always stick a dot vertically in the corner. I will punch a 1/3 thickness in the front. Then again, I only hit a 1/3 thickness on the back. Then when we actually sew it, I will poke a hole with an awl and sew a stitch. In that case, the seams on the front and back are almost same size. The effect will be better. This is why the thick leather should be punched on both sides separately. That's number one. The second common mistake is, if the first punch is too heavy, the second punch is too light. This might cause the stitches to transition in an unnatural way. So when we punch, keep the force evenly and with a belly through that. This is very important. And then the third common problem. When we punch forward with overlapped holes, if not overlapped precisely, or not careful enough, will cause a situation like this. That's where it overlaps. Double eyelids are coming out. You will be sad when stitching. You don't know which hole to sew. How to avoid it? That's when we punch and overlap. Make sure it's completely fine before punching. Otherwise, it is likely to be in vain. If the punch is not vertical, for example, I tilt this pricking iron outward, then this punch will definitely go inward. Although it doesn't look very crooked from the front, but it's very clear from the back. This row of holes went inwards. This row of holes went upwards. Then the thread you saw will be crooked inside and out. Therefore, the punch must be vertical. For example, these are two independent components. If they are not going to stitch together, you don't have to punch holes based on the pattern. But there is a problem involved. How do you arrange the punch hole? For example, if I punch from one end to the other, I hope my punch ends right here. So I need to know how to arrange punch holes. The principle of arranging punch holes is to use the elasticity of leather. For example, this is a 3.0 pricking iron. Let's line up the top punch first, and line up the last punch from another end. It's hard to be sure that two ends are exactly divisible by 3. What should I do at this time? We leave about 2 punches or so to rearrange the distance. For example, I can overlap a few more punches now and calculate the distance. Gently prick a mark. Now we can see that this one is about half a punch away. That's 20 prongs in total. Then line up from here just a small distance away, about a millimeter or so. It must be less than 1 prong distance. If just 1 prong distance, it will be overlapped. Check here. Every time I punch, I will pull the leather forward. Now you'll need a 2 prongs pricking iron. Remember, every time you punch forward, pull it forward. Utilize the flexibility of this hole. For example, this distance will become 3.1 millimeters or 3 millimeters. It doesn't matter. You can feel the difference at 0.1 millimeters per punch. Push forward like this. Make this hole bigger. Then go and drop the second one. And so on. We are all constantly pushing forward. It just so happens that this punch will overlap. Okay, now we can punch hole. This way, the punch is evenly arranged. You can roughly learn this skill. Not very important, because most of our patterns have punch holes. Anyway, this method still needs to be mastered, although sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But leather, it's malleable. We can take advantage of this characteristic to create an exquisite product. Our various methods and techniques are over our final product effect, so understand these material properties. You can play better. Okay, this one can just line up. That's great. Then we press the heavy punch. Finally, we will keep this piece of leather and continue to talk about sewing because it looks more clear when sewing on vegetable tanned leather. This color is very comfortable to see.